So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of give me, a play-by-play of what happened that day. What were you doing?
Well, I was just chilling at the house. And a friend of mine, an old friend from Florida, had called me, and when he first called, I was standing in by the kitchen talking on the phone, and he was telling me, we talked for a while, and he says, "Oh, you're breaking up, I can't hear you very good." So I came in here by the bay window to talk to him because, I've learned that's where I get the best cell reception. So I was just standing in the window behind, and I don't know, I'd been standing there a little while, and then what I mainly remember is the sound of the glass breaking. And I don't really remember feeling anything particularly, but I must have, because I said to him, I said, "I think I just got shot through the window, I gotta go." And I hung up and I ran over into the bathroom because I couldn't, I felt something and I saw blood, but I couldn't tell, I couldn't see anything, any damage. So I went into the bathroom to look in the mirror, and when I went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror, I saw this gash in my neck.
You said you went to the bathroom, kind of what was next then?
Well, so then I look in the mirror and I see this, gash in my neck that's bleeding pretty bad. And of course I'm thinking, holy cow, I need to get to the hospital. So, at first I thought, well, should I call 911? And then I thought, no, the hospital's only 5 miles away. It was bleeding pretty bad. I'm thinking, do I have time to wait for the ambulance to get here to take me there? So I just decided to drive myself. So I ran into the kitchen and grabbed my wallet, my cell phone, hopped in my truck and drove myself to the hospital. And I was here by myself. So, when I saw the gash, I reached up there and grabbed hold of it to pinch it shut because it was bleeding so bad. So I'm holding on to that with one hand. I grab all my stuff, I go get in my truck, and I head down to the hospital. Of course, on the way down to the hospital, I called my wife to tell her, that I'm on the way to the hospital. So that was an interesting conversation.
She say you're crazy for driving yourself?
Well, no, she's like, because, it was kind of like, I'm pretty kind of matter of fact. So it was like, "Hey, Chris," and she could tell by the tone of my voice that something was wrong. And I'm like, "I'm on my way to the hospital." And she's like, "Well, what happened?" And I'm like, "Well, I think I just got shot through the bay window." And the conversation wasn't much longer than that. So, because I was concentrating on driving. So yeah, I drove myself down to the hospital. And then as soon as I got down there and I walked in the front door, the nurse behind there's like 2 doors, there's a foyer. As soon as I walk in, she sees, because I had blood all over my sweats. And so she hopped up and opened the door and they took me in the back.
Long story short, everything was okay. They stitched you up. Did you have to spend a night there or what?
No, so the doctor initially looked at the cut, and then he did an initial examination because it's right here by my trachea. So he wanted to know, he asked me, was I tasting blood? And I'm like, well, no, I don't taste any blood. So it wasn't, I guess he was worried that maybe if the trachea had been,
sure,
penetrated, that, I'd be getting blood down in my lungs. But so that didn't happen. So he looked at it and he said, "Well, I can't tell whether there's any debris." Well, he asked me what happened, and I told him, I said, "Well, I don't know exactly what happened." I said, "Something came through my window." I said, "I assume it's a bullet, but," I said, "I don't know because I left the house in a hurry." And so he told me, so they took me down and did a CAT scan to make sure that I didn't have because he couldn't see. So it's like, and I didn't know. He's like, "Is a bullet in there? Is there glass in there?" So they wanted to do a CAT scan before he stitched me up. So they did the CAT scan, and then we waited a while till the radiologist had time to verify that there wasn't anything in the wound, and then they stitched me up, and I came home. And then when I came home, the sheriff had come. My wife had called the sheriff's department, and they had come down to the hospital and asked me some questions. And then the deputy that had come to the hospital told me when we came home that if I'd give him a call, he'd meet me here. So when I came home, on the way home, we called him and he met us here, and we just kind of left everything like it was for him to do his investigation. And that's when he came in and found the bullet laying on the mantel of the bay window.
When you saw that bullet, when you kind of realized what happened, what started running through your mind? What was your reaction to that?
Well, it was just kind of like, wow, what are the odds of something like that happening. You know, I don't know how you could even calculate that. And you know, I realized that I'd been really blessed that all I got was a cut. Even though it was, you know, pretty scary at the time, then afterwards I'm thinking, well, you know, if I'd been a little bit, you know, deeper into the window or a different angle, you know, it could have been dead instead of just a cut on the throat. So
kind of thinking your lucky stars, I take it.
yeah. So
and I'll talk more about this with the deputy, but you know, I guess, you know, your message just, you know, to anyone who's, whether it's hunting or just shooting recreationally, I guess always kind of be cognizant of your surroundings. I mean, what would you say there?
Well, yeah, it's just, if you look around at the area where I live, it is rural, but pretty much any direction you look, there's houses. And granted, they're not very close, and in some cases there may even be, you know, trees in between those houses, but obviously something got through that regardless. So I think it was, you know, my best guess is that it was somebody hunting and, you know, maybe got a case of buck fever and didn't take into account or couldn't see my house or didn't think about the fact, you know, that in this area, pretty much any direction you go, there's a house, even though it's not very close, or even though maybe you can't see it.
Yeah. And at the same time, you know, this part of the country, you know, just kind of.
Well, yeah, and that's just a natural, I'm
yeah.
sure that's a natural thing, and I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make people aware, you know, make kind of a reminder of, you know, we need to think about what's well beyond where we're shooting, especially when you're dealing with a high-powered rifle.
Moving forward, I mean, we don't often think lightning strikes twice. Will you still make phone calls here? What?
I have, yeah. So.
Not for
No, I think for the first couple of days I didn't, but yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like, yeah, what's the chance that lightning is going to strike twice in the same place? So, you know, and I tend to have a positive outlook on life, you know, focus on the positive and you know, not let, you know, that determine how I'm going to live my life. So, yeah, I'll still stand there in the window. I may think about it, but I mean, I may think about what happened, but it's not going to keep me from, you know, doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Good to hear. I think that's all I got. Unless there's anything else I missed or anything else you want to talk about.
I don't think so.